Hello and welcome to Young Turks, India's longest-running show for startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Shereen Bhan. For all of India's population power, consumption is still limited to just 30 million households with a per capita income of more than $15,000, consisting of roughly 120 million Indians. Now this as per the third edition of the Indus Valley Report by early-stage venture capital firm Blume Ventures. It is these 30 million households that pretty much pay all the direct taxes. That is 1.5% Indians pay India's income tax in entirety. They own all the personal cars, credit cards, make most of the mutual fund and stock market investments as well. And this Indian consumption class, while growing steadily with an appetite for premium products, the sale of entry vehicles is declining while SUVs rule the roads. And who can miss the craze for iPhones? Apple's India sales set to overtake HUL sales in FY24, but that's only half the story. The 30 million households also effectively constitute the market for most startups, signaling perhaps a saturation point. 75% of our retail spend still go towards necessities, and with per capita GDP still at about $2,500, Blume estimates that discretionary spending has only grown marginally from 21% of consumption in 1999 to 29% in 2022-23. Now, India's consumption is under-indexed in several categories, from cars and ACs to refrigerators and domestic air travel. Having said that, India's fintechs have certainly played a part in expanding the consumer class by expanding the credit market, bringing in new credit borrowers. But the quality of the borrowers market is also with its limits. Cash burn fueled category building has taken a back step, with venture funding in India dropping to pre-2017 levels. It raises the question, have Indian startups hit their growth ceiling? Well, the Indus Valley Report says it depends on where you look. It says we are seeing a wave of consumer tech startups emerge, attacking distinctly Indian use cases and monetizing via microtransactions. Digital native brands continue to do well. Quick commerce players Blinkit, Instamart and Zepto are global outliers, and distinct India-only models, be it in dating, OTT, spirituality, eldercare and most importantly manufacturing, are the frontiers of the future. With the ads business taking off, the report emphatically concludes that Indian startups are evolving distinct playbooks for growth. Thanks very much for joining us on this special edition of Young Turks. I'm Shereen Bhan, and with me to encapsulate the exhaustive report in the next 20 minutes or so and help make sense of this study of the future of Indian startups, I'm joined by the author Sajith Pai, partner at Blume, and also Karthik Reddy, co-founder and managing partner at Blume Ventures. Sajith and Karthik, many thanks for joining us. Sajith, let me start by asking you, between the last report of 2023 and this report, I want to ask you, what has been the big revelation that the data has thrown up for you, Sajith?
Yeah, I think it has to do with playbooks. You covered exhaustively the report. I would say on the macro front, not much has changed. The households, the 30 million households remain, pretty much where they are. They've got richer, but I would say that on the macro front, not as much has changed. But what we're really seeing is, I think, on, I would say, the playbooks front, I think there's been a sharpening of the playbooks by Indian startups. UPI AutoPay in particular has been a revelation. And I think startups have started using that to a far greater degree. They've started leveraging some of the DPI infrastructure, digital public infrastructure. Namayatri, for instance, is a great example of that. So I would say it's really on the playbooks front, Shereen, that we've really seen a distinct change and evolution.
What do you see as the story there? So playbook, and then specifically what's happening on the fintech side?
India has been a market where you can't force shift discretionary spending at the pace that you want to fund startups. So you simply can't say, I'll give you more money, go and increase the profit pool, start growing faster. So what we've noticed consistently over the last 12, 13 years is that somebody who's in a sector tries to improve the profit pool by increasing the value chain, part of the value chain that they can grab. So it's always adjacencies. So somebody starts off as fintech and ends up in commerce. Somebody starts in commerce, ends up in fintech. Somebody starts in supply, in consumer front end like a lens cart, but ends up having to back end its entire manufacturing in the world's largest plant in Rajasthan. And so essentially the margin structures, if you want to get past those 30 million household or those, India 1, India 2 universe of 250 million, if you want to get past that, then you have to go and become even more efficient in how you deliver. And historically, the DPI infrastructure it's not new, it's been there for 6 to 8 years, but how to leverage it better and better to access those customers and reduce cost of distribution almost close to zero. That's the new regulatory playbook that we're seeing in India. So if you have to get past, India 1, India 2, you have to be able to milk the DPI plus Geo infrastructure that the government and Mukesh Ambani have given us, right? As at least as a starting point. And I think that's evolving very rapidly, and which is why I think we build very differently from what's been considered a China playbook or a US playbook, which doesn't necessarily apply to us. Because as Sajith said in his report, there are many ways to look at the data, but you're not going to be able to grow those 30 million households fast enough. And there's enough empirical evidence to show that will go at a steady pace because discretionary spending doesn't accelerate as much as we would like it.
What are you seeing happen on account of being able to leverage DPI, leverage UPI, etc. at this point in time? How is that definitively changing playbook and opening up adjacencies?
On monetizing via microtransactions, we've seen two distinct playbooks. One would be the likes of, say, Pocket FM, for example, or a Coco, which is really looking at, I would say, very small ticket items. So maybe creating an internal wallet of coins and then allowing people to kind of use that against specific in-app purchases. So the gaming ones you mentioned, I would say Dream11 and Pocket FM, for example, would be great examples of that. On the other hand, UPI autopay, and we've seen surging mandates on UPI autopay. And UPI autopay really enables you to drive retention. So Stage, one of our portfolios, has seen about 100% of its kind of customers, new users, now come through UPI autopay. So UPI autopay is great for subscriptions. So these are two kind of distinct models that are evolving in the microtransaction space. The other interesting one on DPI has been the account aggregator framework, which allows lending, and that's a very interesting story that's evolving. And in the coming year, we would see ONDC rolling out credit. And we're going to see that kind of grow on steroids.
But Karthik, speaking of stories that are building out, and I think that's one of the interesting slides from the report on merchant media becoming bigger than print ads, because this takes me back to a conversation that I was having with Dara Kushtrai of Uber, where he was basically talking about what this has done for their business essentially as well, opening up a new revenue stream. And that's the story that's playing out across a whole bunch of merchants at this point in time. Karthik, how do you see this as a trend?
We're all in the media business. Sajith and me, both our last day jobs were with the Times Group, as you know. So,
we're still in the media business.
No, you are, of course, Shereen. But we all know that attention is how you monetize in the media business, right? And so, what's happening very interestingly is attention is shifting to the small screen. It's shifting even more than desktops, which was how the US and the UK evolved. And it took a while for small screen, property monetization to find more innovative mechanisms. And I think that surge is beginning to happen at this juncture where, people are realizing that, I was just watching my pizza order yesterday, and the number of times I got to that brand, which is sitting on the Swiggy rider, was amazing, right? So that's all essentially an advertiser seeking. And I'm not surprised that the dollars are shifting dramatically because the eyeballs are shifting dramatically away from traditional media. So I think people were surprised with the shift in how much internet advertising took over from like 1% market share in 2006 to some massive, I don't know the current number, maybe Sajith does, but the shift was dramatic between 2006 and 15. And now I think you're seeing a
Yeah.
second wave of that, where you're going to find a massive multiplication of, how much of that is going to shift to mobile first, visual display advertising, which was and very creative stuff, right? Whether that's Uber or Swiggy or whether it's Flipkart or Amazon. And this will continue because I think our attention spans are more, mobile phone oriented today, and that's where the consumers are sitting, the 850 broadband connections, 850 million.